I'll call the March 19, 2012 Brattleboro Development Review Board meeting to order. Note that we have 5 folks on the board right now. We're expecting a couple of more, but we can dispatch with some of the preliminary items before their arrival. I don't think we have any minutes, or at least I didn't see any minutes that needed approval tonight. They've probably been approved via email.
I didn't see any.
They've been reviewed by email, but they haven't been voted on yet.
Looking for a motion to approve the minutes that have been circulated by email.
So motion.
So moved. A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That carries 5-0. There are other 2 members of the board. We'll have 7 members of the board tonight. A full roster. I will make an editorial comment that the Vermont legislature is now considering amendments to zoning and land use laws in the state of Vermont. And one of the contemplated changes is to change not the quorum requirement, but the majority voting requirement. Right now, and this is relevant because I'll have to recuse myself for a matter later tonight, and we might have other recusals. It is required in order for an applicant to prevail in an application before the board that the applicant get the majority of the 7-member board to vote in the affirmative. The legislature is contemplating a change that will make that the majority of the members who are at the meeting. So it would be possible, if that legislative change is enacted, that an application being heard by 5 or fewer members, and it would have to be at least 4 members in order to meet the quorum requirement before, but an application with 5 or fewer members, before 5 or fewer members, could be approved by 3 or more board members. That is not the world we live in right now. The world we live in right now is that the applicant needs to have a majority of the 7-member board, so always at least 4 affirmative votes. We probably should, and I don't have my little cheat sheet with my... Where do we usually have that? We had that in the minutes.
I'm disappointed as to why it is.
I did it today.
Vice Chair. Acting Vice Chair. Do you have a draft of the minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the other.
No.
I don't know.
No?
Hold
Trying to do this from memory. While we look for the minutes so I can remember the oath, and I apologize for being a little rusty. I've been the Vice Chair for a year, and Tim Cuthbertson has been ably leading the board. So before we get to the minutes, I just want to remind everybody who we are and what we do. We are the Brattleboro Development Review Board. We hear applications for land development in the town of Brattleboro. We will conduct our meeting tonight, as we always do, on the record. That has very few changes from the days when we didn't conduct our meetings on the record. Really, they are 2. One, we're going to work extra hard to keep a good and clean record of the proceedings. So if you have any material you'd like to submit to the board to be part of the record, either when the public is participating or the applicant is submitting materials, if you could present those materials to the board, we'd appreciate it. When you're giving your testimony, if you could speak loudly, identify yourself, either the applicants at the table or members of the public at the microphone. We'll take your recorded testimony. We will also, and this is the most important reminder, I will also ask that the applicants address the board and the members of the public address the board, but the applicant and the members of the public shouldn't address one another. We lose control of the proceeding and the record gets all muddy. So if you have any concerns as a member of the public, you want to make sure that the applicant is queried, make sure to ask us. We'll keep a running tab, and then we'll make sure to compile all of those. We get rid of the redundancies, and then make sure the applicant addresses all of those issues. I do recall that, one other item. We cast a pretty big tent here at the Brattleboro Development Review Board. We don't really inquire if the people who want to participate from members of the public are interested persons. That's a term, it's a statutory term. We just require that you be interested and have information to provide, thank you very much, to the board. That doesn't mean if there's an appeal of our decision that the environmental court will take such a liberal and encompassing stance. They may find that even if you participated down below at this hearing, that you are not an interested party for the purposes of an appeal. So with that out of the way and the approval of the minutes, let's do the confirmation that the meeting has been properly warned. Has the meeting been properly warned?
Yes, it is.
Fine, thank you. Any disclosures of conflicts of interest, ex parte communications about any matters before the board tonight?
I'm in a butter, or I own property that abuts the St. Michael's Church across the street. I don't feel that I have any conflicts involved, but if anybody wants me to recuse myself, I'll be happy to do so.
Okay. I will be recusing myself on application 2012-015, the Vermont Center for the Deaf. They are a client of mine, and I have provided them advice regarding this matter. So I will recuse myself, and James will be acting chair for that matter. Any other disclosures of conflicts of interest, ex parte communication? Good. So we'll be the 7 voting members of the board tonight. And one final item is the affirmation of the interested parties. So again, the second change, and as I mentioned it, one is that we try really hard to keep a good record. The second is that the testimony of the applicants and the members of the public who wish to provide evidence to the board is under affirmation. So if you are going to be an applicant before the board tonight, or you are going to be a member of the public, an interested party, if you could stand and take the following oath, I'd appreciate it. Do you hereby affirm that the evidence you shall give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
1. Thank you. First matter before the board tonight is application 2002-61. There's been a request from the applicant to continue that matter to April 16, 2012. How confident are we that April 16, 2012 will be the that's probably tax day this year too. How confident are we that that'll happen?
At this point, he hasn't given me the information, but the deadline isn't until next Friday.
Okay, so about a week and a half, 2 weeks away. Okay, so we'll continue that to a date specific, April 16th, 2012. I can hear a motion to continue that matter to April 16th, 2012.
So motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, I abstain. That carries 601, and we'll move application 2011-261 to April 16th, 2011. Call. Yes.
He's an alternate, so he might.
Oh yeah, all 7 of us are going to be the voting members tonight, and all alternates are appointed for the remainder of the evening. Thank you. Excuse me. 2011-257, call application 2011-257, Vermont Summit Real Estate, request for sign approval to install a ground sign for an auto dealership. We'll wait them out. While we're waiting. So is it only the signs that are left? I missed the February meeting, so.
It's only the ground sign.
Wait.
Okay, only the ground sign.
Wait.
Okay. Was that?
Pick a funny time.
So we might as well wait, because we've called the meeting, and then we have to continue it. So while we do that, so Brian, so the site plan was approved,
The site plan was
and the wall signs were approved?
And the wall signs were approved.
Okay. And what information, again, I wasn't here and I apologize, what information were we looking to have provided by the applicant regarding the ground sign?
There was a question of how large an area to be allowed for the ground sign based on whether it's one business or multiple businesses at one site. So whether it should be a 32 square foot limit or a 64 square foot limit.
Okay. And who was going to provide additional information regarding the number of businesses located at the facility?
So we're going to come back with a proposed design, either showing multiple businesses or...
Oh, great.
Oh, yeah.
Come on up. Sorry about that. That's all right. Just been starting without you. So I'm catching up. I was saying earlier that I missed the February meeting, so I understand that there's been site plan approval and that the wall signs have been approved, and all of the landscaping, access, parking, all of the site plan elements have been approved?
Yes.
Okay. So I understand that the only thing we have before us tonight is the ground sign.
Correct. Except there is one notable, the submittals I gave you folks in regards to the wall badges that have already been approved, there has been some modifications from the manufacturer which actually decreases the overall square footage of those wall badges.
Great. We always like decreases in the signs of signs. If you could...
I apologize for not having the current information when I submitted the last one, but that was the case. So.
What you should do, though, is make sure that the zoning administrator has the accurate depictions for the sizes of the signs.
Absolutely.
So your permit and your site conditions are
That should
identical.
it should be reflected in the packet that you folks all have.
Okay. So I understand that there is maybe an open question, and that is this a Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealership, or is this a Chrysler dealership, a Dodge dealership, a Ram dealership, and a Jeep dealership?
Yeah, and it should also be, at the last meeting, we were at ends with the monument sign, because it was 53.5 square feet, but the one that we've submitted now is 33.9.
Okay.
So it's getting a little closer to the requirements.
And what's the size, Brian? 32? Did you say
32.
would be the size for a single
Yes, that's correct.
business? Okay. So we are 1.9 square feet away. And so this is the sign?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And Brian, other than its maybe the 1.9 offending feet, it's conforming in height at 18 feet to the top of the sign?
Yes, correct.
And in other elements, is it conforming? Is it backlit and?
There are no further restrictions in that.
No, really. Just the sign size. Okay. How is the sign lit?
It is backlit.
Okay. And the 33.9 square feet, is that when you put a rectangle around the entire sign, or is that the sum of each of the 4 badges?
There's a sum of the 4 badges.
Okay.
Each badge is separate?
Well, they're on a cabinet, but they do have their own reveal to them. So when they calculate the square footage, that's where it is. But the mounting, back to it is larger than the 33.9.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We tend not to care much about it, but I always ask: is there a sign that is 32 square feet that you, or fewer, that you could install as a ground sign?
They don't, the company that has the contract with Chrysler, Principal Sign Group, this actually is a discontinued sign that Chrysler has no longer allowed dealerships to, from the menu of options. That's why this really wasn't even available to me months ago in the beginning. It wasn't until this process. So this is the smallest one that they don't even make currently, but they're willing to put it back into production for this case. Which, I suppose the argument could go either way, that if they're going to kind of make a special, then why couldn't they reduce the signage to conform to the 32 square feet? And the feedback I got from the principal group is that, they actually have, it's a machine form, and they'd have to get all new machines set up to go smaller than what's currently available. So this is the smallest monument sign that is available to us without going farther down the custom route.
Okay. Great. Again, I wasn't here last month, so I'm not sure if this is satisfactory to the board or not. I don't know the tenor of that conversation, so I'll look to the board to give me a little more guidance here. Boom.
Well, my own feeling is that considering how far it was reduced from the original and how close it conforms, it to me offhand, my opinion, is something I could live with.
And I
Charlie,
say,
you're the sign guy here, sign stickler.
Yeah, no, I go along with Spoon on that.
and with the reduction in the size of the signs on the front of the building that we've already approved, I don't see why we can't, a 1.9 square foot increase in that sign would be acceptable as far as I'm concerned.
Never let it be said that the Brattleboro Development Review Board is a stickler for signs. Okay. Were there any other elements? Location? Yeah, that was approved in the site plan.
Everything was set except the size.
Okay. Anything that the zoning administrator needs other than what's been submitted? Any members of the public wish to provide evidence regarding this matter? Seeing none, all those looking for a motion to approve application 2011-257, the request for sign approval to improve a ground sign.
So motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I'll add a condition to the decision that the applicant supplement the previous submissions to include, and it probably is in here already, the as-built wall signs that you're going to install. So we have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. I abstain. That carries 601. Thank you very much. Congratulations. I'll call application 2012-009, Brattleboro Kiln Dry and Milling. Request for site plan approval to demolish several buildings. I always thought it was odd that in Brattleboro you need a building permit for land development to tear down a building.
Yeah, I think that's a new thing. We didn't used to have to do that. But
It's been years, at least since I've been here, 8 years. 8 or 9 years, right? Yeah.
We threatened to make somebody put his garage back up again.
But that's the gist of what we're here for, is you have a plan in front of you that shows some buildings that Sir Sosmo would like to take down at their Brattleboro Kill Drive facility. And that's about it.
Storm damage? Or just,
Not just underutilized buildings.
Yeah. And any redevelopment plans that
Not at this
they
time.
want to share? No. And let's just see. So what are the buildings used for now? What are they constructed?
Well, there's a variety. Some of them are block, they're dry kills, and most of them are storage facilities, wood construction.
Okay. And any, I imagine there's no foundation, I mean, just built on slab?
Well, yeah, there's a foundation under those, but
Well,
yeah, there's no basement.
No dug foundation in the
Right,
basement.
yeah.
So what, is it a concrete
Big-
slab?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah. And will that remain?
I don't know. I would assume that they probably will in some cases. In other cases, they'd be removed to the gravel.
Okay.
Okay.
I assume there are no explosives involved?
No.
Okay. And these are, these buildings are in the flood plain, maybe the floodway? Are they in the flood?
I don't think any of them are in the
Floodplain.
floodway, but they certainly are in the floodplain.
Yeah, here's the floodway boundary. So they're all in the floodway.
Here on
Yeah, right there. Right here. So the inside, here's the
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
You're actually, no, they don't look to be in the floodway either.
No, they're not in the floodway. They are in the floodplain.
Floodplain.
though.
Yeah, because the floodplain is kind of back out into Frost Street almost, isn't
Right.
it?
Right.
Yeah.
The other side of Frost Street, yeah.
Yeah, is it? Okay, so they're in the floodway. We had some helpful comments from the planning department regarding some of the questions I've asked already, and the grading plans. And so, is there any plan to do any stockpiling of inventory there?
I don't know. Most everything that they stockpile there, as you're probably aware, are in the buildings.
Are in the building
Yeah, yeah.
and elevated?
Well, the more modern buildings there are constructed in accordance with the flood requirements. So, for example, the two storage sheds in the far east are constructed so that the water actually flows through them. And in fact, they did. It worked very well at the last, for Irene. And that's pretty common practice. I mean, it's something that's been done many places for many years, and it's part of the FEMA requirements. It's one of the options you can use.
Have you any idea of the reason that was made note of?
The flood hazard area?
No, the stockpile.
I think that
I assume, is that referring to outdoor storage?
yes, the outdoor storage of materials that would, buoyant materials that
Float
would
away. Well, I noticed walking past just last week, there was a considerable amount of lumber being stored out in the yard. Now, I don't know if it was just there temporarily to be shipped, certainly, but if that is an issue, it needs to be dealt with. If it's not an issue, I'm not sure why we're looking at it.
I take your point. Are those? Is there a Brian? Do you know, is the concern of the planning department the stockpiling of the inventory now below the flood, or in a manner not inconsistent with the flood hazard regulation?
Primary concern is with the stockpiling of demolished materials that's not in the floodway.
Yeah, the demolished materials won't be stored.
And you're not bringing in fill. You're not going to be raising the.
No, they will not raise the site either.
So, no fill, so no stockpiling of material. The zoning administrator, the planning department rather, pointed out that the property address is indicated as 36, but I think 36 Frost Street, but I think the town thinks it's 46 Frost Street, so we may want to correct that. I think that may Maybe, any other questions or
There's
comments?
under the fire safety,
Yeah. Yes.
it says about the building, are they going to be attached to another, I was looking at the plans here, it has the little lines, those are the buildings that are coming down?
Yes, those are
Okay,
the
are they, that one looks like it's attached to a storage, or a storage outdoors or indoors? It like L's around, it looks like it L's around and to another building, or part of another building.
Yeah, it does abut other buildings, that's correct. Or some of them do.
So does that mean that you're going to have to rebuild the walls that, when you demolish a building, you're only going to be demolishing 3 parts of it as opposed to 4 parts? Like one wall?
Yeah, the kills have their own walls, for sure.
Okay.
Okay? And so the only building that I would think is of concern is the most westerly one, which is kind of almost T-shaped. And they also abut the kills on the west, so it's where it says storage to the north. I don't know, in truth, I don't know what the story there is, but there would be a wall, obviously, on the storage shed.
The question I raise is, because of that, do you need to get permit from the Vermont Division of Fire Safety, and because of the fact that it shares a wall?
No, I wouldn't think so, because you're removing the structure. If it doesn't have a wall, I don't know why you would have to go to
Okay.
fire safety any more than if it had a wall. If you had a wall, you might, because egress and so forth could be an issue. But without a wall, I don't know why you would.
It's an issue, you need permits when buildings share a common wall that aren't structurally independent.
Oh, if you're talking about structure, that's a different item. I wouldn't. It'll be structurally sound, that's for sure. Yeah, they wouldn't tear it down without. They wouldn't leave a building without it being structurally sound. Let me put it that way.
I'm, despite the language of the Brattleboro subdivision to the contrary, I'm loath to condition Development Review Board permits on getting other permits, because it's beyond my ability, and I think the expertise and familiarity with the board, to know what other permits you need. But I do caution applicants, as I've probably cautioned you in the past, is that this isn't the only stop you might have to make, and I think we'll leave it at a reminder that the chief of police of the town, or chief of the fire chief in the town of Brattleboro, suggests that you give the Vermont Department of Fire Safety a call.
We also, for your information, we did need a permit from EPA because of the asbestos issue. So.
Exactly. So,
right.
If I tried to understand all the permits that you needed and then condition my permit on those permits, I'm sure I'd miss a bunch. Any other questions or comments from the board regarding this matter? Any questions or comments from members of the public regarding this matter? Yes. Yes, please come up and identify yourself.
I'm Ishana Artra. I live directly across the street, and my concern is primarily about sound control during the process of demolition. Because we're a residential neighborhood, already the presence of the kiln dry is an issue regarding sound, and it has been disturbing to the people in my household. So I'm here with that as my primary concern. What hours will you be keeping if you do go forward with demolition, and what practices will be in place to help mitigate sound?
No, the hours of operation.
Just 1 second. Let's just make sure we get all the questions
Okay.
from the public. Maybe there's only one. Any other comments? Any other concerns you want the board to inquire about?
The only other item that was mentioned from Sue Fillion was the concern about addressing the sewer line that comes from that building. Very last paragraph on that page.
Oh, do you know?
The sewer line actually comes from a building that's remaining. There's
Okay.
kind of an in-between building there that sewer line comes
And
from.
that will remain, it will
Yes.
remain active,
Right,
and you're aware of it.
yeah. That's my understanding.
Okay. Any other members of the public have questions, comments? So how about the demolition?
Demolition hours would be normal operating hours, 7 to 5.
Okay.
And about how long will it take to get them all down?
Spoon, I really don't know because they didn't tell me how long, but I would guess that it would be less than a month's period of time.
Are those going to require some heavy equipment, crane?
There will be,
Bulldozer.
well, there certainly will be heavy equipment to take the block walls down and that type of thing, certainly.
Jackhammer,
uh,
swinging ball?
I don't think there'd be any swinging balls, no, but,
You know,
yeah, I know they used to do it that way, I've seen it done.
they're doing it next to my building on the Marlboro College Graduate Center.
Oh, really?
They're dropping a ball.
Okay.
My problems are not before the board right now. Okay, so you think you think jackhammers?
I would think that they probably would have a jackhammer at a certain point.
Yeah. And then maybe a front end loader to load it into a
Absolutely,
truck?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there'll definitely be heavy equipment there, there's no way to do it without it.
Weekdays, weekends, do you think?
No, I don't, no weekends, just weekdays, 7 to 5.
Okay. Yes.
So my next question would be, is it possible to time it so that jackhammers crashing, there are already so many crashing sounds with the lumber, which I understand, but the crashing of cement and the crashing of steel and the crashing of all of that and the jackhammers, any way to make it, to time it so that that's not happening at 7 a.m., but later in the morning, 8:30, 9 o'clock?
I'm sure we could probably accommodate, 8:30 or something for jackhammers and that type of thing, but certainly I don't think that they would want to prohibit heavy machinery from running. They want to get the thing taken down. Quite frankly, you want it down and out of the way so the noise is gone. And the longer it takes, the longer it'll be there, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, we typically will permit the construction activity to occur during the daylight hours and the normal operating hours of the facility. So, maybe the board has a different feeling about this, but it would be atypical and unusual that we would require that the construction occur, at a certain hour. However, that shouldn't discourage you and the applicant from kind of sitting down and talking about a schedule that's respectful and mutually acceptable.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Any other members of the board have questions regarding this application? Members of the public, questions or comments? Looking for a motion to approve application number 2012 009.
So moved?
Moved,
Second?
seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, please say nay. I abstain. That carries 601.
Thank you.
Good luck, and good luck. I'll call application number 2012-013, Thomas Hudon, for request for site plan approval to convert a non-conforming use to a non-conforming use of less than intensity. Please tell us about your project.
I'm Michelle Hudon, and I'm representing Thomas Hudon, the applicant. And we propose that the current pre-existing, non-conforming, high-intensity use of a service station be approved by you folks for a less intense hair salon.
And what's the less intense use?
A hair salon.
Hair salon. How many seats do you think?
Seats, I don't know, 2 employees.
2 employees, yeah. And what kind of So I think the first analysis is to figure out, as indicated in some of the draft materials that we have, is this in fact a less intensive use than its current use? And its current use is
A service station,
as a service station
period.
or a gasoline
sir.
station, retail
No, sir.
station?
It is currently a service station. There has been no gas there for a year.
Yeah, but there was gas there.
Yes, sir. So in
And
the
I think
past,
it's to the applicant's benefit that there was gas there.
Okay, well-
Because
the biggest use it
gas
ever
stations
had,
are really
Right.
high intensity.
the highest intensity it had, we probably were running approximately at least 150 to 200 trips per day
That's what I'm
because of the gas.
Okay, and that use can continue. So you came before, just to remind everyone on the board, you came before the board and you had requested really some site plan changes.
Correct.
And a change of use to a neighborhood store.
Correct.
So to go strictly from kind of a gasoline service station, gasoline slash
Yes.
service station, to a gasoline slash neighborhood store.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just want to make sure everyone understands. The gasoline use, if you wanted to turn those pumps
Right.
back on tomorrow, you could do that.
Correct.
And that would be the continuation of a pre-existing non-conforming use.
Correct.
Okay. So I think what we should do as the Brattleboro Development Review Board is compare your permitted or at least your
My
legal
existing use.
as a gas station with a gasoline slash service station with the proposed use, which will
Be a hair
remove the
salon.
pumps and renovate the building and make it into exclusively a hair salon.
Right, without any air wrenches or any of that stuff going on.
No air, write that down, no air wrenches. Okay, so, how many folks do you think you'll serve in a day? How many, two employees?
We're thinking max 30 to 40 trips.
Okay.
He was in a year ago to try to
As compared to, how many trips were you?
150 to 200.
150. That's how many gasoline customers there were?
Correct.
How many service station customers were there, you think, when there were?
Depends if it's at the end of the 2-month period when you need your car inspected, then
Yeah?
it's nonstop from open to close. So, I mean, you can probably do an inspection in 20 to 30 minutes, 16 to 20 on top of the gas
Okay. Okay,
per day.
all right.
Didn't they take the pumps out already?
They may have taken the pumps out, doesn't mean they couldn't put them back in. But that use would continue for a certain period of time. I think it expires after a while. Do you remember? Is it year, 2 year, 1 year? But the use, as long as it's within no more than a year since it's last
Yeah.
been in service, should be permitted. So 30 to 40 trips or so. So that's there are generally two types of non-conformities in land use and in Brattleboro. One is a non-conforming use and another is a non-conforming building. Is this a non-conforming building in the district by its size, its setback, its I mean, really, that's the only two elements that would be non-conforming in Brattleboro.
Well, there's no new additions proposed to the building, except
Okay.
potential parking. What's conforming building on the hill?
Okay, so the building is conforming. So we're not talking about, because you can also you can run into some issues where a building can be pre-existing non-conforming, and you can't expand the building, because then you're expanding the intensity of the non-conforming
Right.
building, but not the use. And is the parking, is the coverage or the setbacks or the number of proposed parking spots non-conforming in the district?
The coverage is fine, it's a large parcel. There is parking right now in the front yard setback, which is non-conforming.
Okay.
There are 3 access points, which is non-conforming.
Parking in front yard, 3 access.
Why do you need more parking spaces than there are now?
Well, we had proposed the proposed parking spaces because we felt that it would be more aesthetically pleasing, so we would probably get rid of the existing ones in the front, trying to be more in conformity with the multiple residential area and making it look less like a service station and more like a business that was aesthetically pleasing.
So which ones would go? Because that would in fact then decrease
The two on the
the
right of
nonconformity
the lot,
of their use. Which ones?
the two on the right of the lot would go.
Okay. You know, those probably are not in the front yard setback, right, Brian?
Well, at least right
At
here.
30, because those look like they're at least 30.
They're probably about 63.5 feet from the end of it to the front of the property. You got the 33-foot setback, and then you've got a 30.5 deep building.
Yeah, okay, that's right, okay.
The plan that you have submitted indicates, or is not indicating that any of the existing pavement, which is all of it, would be removed.
We would leave that to your discretion as part of a potential. I mean, we don't have an issue with removing that front section of pavement because we realized that we will most likely have to lose those spots. The existing parking towards the left of the property.
1, 2, 3, 4 or so.
Right.
You think
and
those will come out too?
it's a potential. It's up, it's up for discussion, but certainly we think that the pavement will probably have to go on the front, and then we would propose to pave the left-hand side.
Okay, well, I think that from a DRB perspective, there are a few things wrong, and we need to move to fewer things wrong, since again, it's pre-existing non-conforming. And so, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sorry, the second thing that Brian mentioned that was wrong is, in addition to parking, is the number of access points to Western Avenue. There are 3 within just a few hundred feet,
Right.
or a couple hundred feet. So would it be
It would be
possible to close in the access immediately in front of the building?
On the right-hand side of your plan?
Yeah.
Yes, it would.
Convert that pavement to something else, maybe grass.
Sidewalk, grass.
So with a
Combination.
sidewalk,
Yep.
grass, and then have. I mean, do you need both of those? Doesn't, if that's a parking space, it looks well. I guess. Could you have just a single access?
We could, and we would like the one on the left.
Yeah, let's do that. So we'll have the one access to the far left. So that's the far west.
That's
So the
West.
western access will
Yep.
stay. The other 2 access points will be closed in.
Yep.
Is
I
there
can't-
a curb cut there?
I have a problem with that. The one on the far left
Yeah.
is a separate piece of property, I believe.
It's part of this lot.
It's all one piece.
It's all one piece, but it was bought in 2 separate sections, correct?
I'm not aware of that, Tommy.
I don't know. Was it bought in 2 separate, all at once?
He bought it all as one piece.
It is a separate section, I think, the people before me prior to me bought.
Okay.
The section from Mr., what's his name, up on Hill.
We'll just require that even if they are separate lots, they're now in common ownership, and if they're in common ownership, that's a good point. Oh, just a second. We're going to get to the public. I promise. We'll allow that access, and then have a deed restriction that requires that access provide access for the existing building. You don't need access on the building you own, or what the testimony so far is that the applicant owns both of them, so you can use access to this lot for the purpose of this lot. But we'll just make sure that that's
I'm
a
confused
deed,
which one
a
is
deed
which.
element, so
This
that
might
this
be
lot
on
is
their
kind
lot,
of more
with
room.
extra pieces, so this is one.
Okay.
we want.
So the proposal,
Middle one's one we want, because this will be where your parking is.
the fluid proposal now is that the the 4 parking spaces to the...
Excuse me, can I make a
Sure,
change to
go ahead.
that? Can we get rid of the westernmost and the easternmost and keep the middle one instead? That would still be one access.
It seems okay. Looks like it's a little bigger access.
You can make it smaller if you
And
want.
then so that you drive in. So where do you anticipate the kind of the travel?
I think
lane
that
here?
they would, if they're coming down, they're going to take a right into the turn-in and
Yeah.
then bear a quick left to park.
Okay. And then, but how would a person who wants to park in the back get to the back?
They just drive to, it's the left of the building, because these spaces here,
So those would go as well. Okay. So those 4.
the 4 that say existing,
Yep.
Those would
go.
go.
And these 4 go.
and the 4 in the front,
Okay.
yep, and the 2 on the right.
And there's okay. So all the existing go.
Right.
And then, so really you have some, you would move the parking to the perimeter of the lot.
Correct.
On the west side.
Yep.
And then
And at
just
the-
the 4 parking spaces.
Right, they'd be kind of like pushed back, so it wouldn't be,
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So about 12 spaces.
correct.
How many are required in this district?
2 for each seat.
2 for each seat, and how many seats do you anticipate?
4, 5
4 or 5,
max.
so, okay, we're about 8 to 10. Again, the planning department notes that there's no handicap parking space, and I think this will require 1 handicap parking space.
Okay.
So there'll have to be a conforming handicap parking space.
I'd like to be clear on what is to be pavement and what isn't.
Where it says pavement now in the front lower section, it's running along Western Ave.
Yeah.
We're going to we would take that out.
From the west side of the building east, that all that pavement would come out, and the easternly entrance would also come out. And the westerly entrance would also come out.
This would be paved. This would be paved.
But you're looking at, what you're proposing are all the spaces that would be on the far west, and then the 4 spaces that are in the far back.
Correct.
And that seems to leave a...
We're running into
I'm
each
look.
other.
That's a...
We're running into
huge-
each other, because these are the ones that are going to have to go.
Considering that you're only going to have 2 chairs, and if you have
4 or
2...
5 chairs.
I thought he said 4 to
Four or
5.
Oh, you said 4 or 5?
2 employees.
Oh, 2 employees. Oh, I didn't know you could do it. They could do more than one head at a time. But, all right. So you got 2 employees and 4 people in your chairs, and say 4 people waiting. That's a total of 10.
Correct.
There's also a considerable amount of parking on the street there. It's all available to park, and it's not used very much. It's almost always empty spaces. I'm trying to minimize, if you look at each little square here, that's 5 feet square. And I walked over to this site and was impressed by the extent of the area. For instance, those parking spaces on the left are actually 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, about 50 to 55 feet in length. The point is to try to minimize so you've got at least 12 spaces, but no more really. If you needed more than that even, which seems unlikely, then people can, of course, a few people can use the street once in a while. So I don't quite know how to reconfigure it for you, but it just, I'm just...
Are you saying there's too many, sir?
Is what?
Are you saying there's too many spaces?
You got 20 spaces there.
Well, the amount,
We don't want 20 spaces. We have 12 proposed spaces.
You have 12.
And we're willing and more than agreeable to remove the current pavement in the front of the facility and remove all the existing spaces. So in effect,
But essentially, from what I understand, you're looking at removing the pavement
replacing
from
it
the
with,
west side of the building down to the existing curb cut, the edge of it. Is that right?
No, it'd be from the west side of the building east.
East.
East, where the pump's set and where the island's set and where the
Okay.
gas was unloaded.
I'm not sure where that is on my, starting from the west side of the building. How
Start up-
many squares over are you speaking
1,
of?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
12?
12 little squares.
Yeah. That goes all the way to the far western edge, but I'm saying from the west edge of the structure, the building.
That's what I said, sir. From the western edge of the structure where there's a big triangle,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the western edge of the structure.
Yes.
On the edge of that line where it says 24 feet,
Yep.
if I come down and start counting to the right of your paper, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay. Everything there east
Correct.
is all the
Is
pavement
current
that's being
pavement,
removed.
and we would remove it. Correct.
Okay, and you are going to replace that with pavement that'll go all the way to the far western edge where it says 80 feet,
Correct.
and all the way back to the 4 proposed parking spaces.
Correct.
And the removed pavement will be replaced with sidewalk and grass.
And just- that's 100 feet deep, and
Come all the way back here.
2, 4,
This could be
6,
greenery
8.
up here too. This up in here. should be good.
Almost,
These are gonna sink back to here. This
So
is
where do you
gonna
want it to be green?
It could be greenery over here, but that's what he's looking at.
So we would be agreeable to taking the western edge of the property, where it says 80 feet,
Yeah,
making that greenery. So in effect, taking those proposed spots and moving them more in line with the existing ones,
To the opening.
so that you would have greenery on the edge of the property
okay.
and less pavement overall.
And just to kind of frame the conversation tonight, I'm not sure we're going to get it all accomplished tonight.
Right.
All we really wanted to get accomplished, all we've warned tonight, is the non-conforming use. And this is very helpful, and I think it's helpful for the board to see the site plan as well. So, I take Spoon's comments to heart, that that's a lot of pavement, and it's a lot of pavement when we may be able to design it with less pavement. The other issue is parking in the setback. We'd also like to push the parking back a little bit, or at least remove some of the spaces. And we tend to, especially on wide public roads that have lots of available on-street parking, like to encourage people to keep their parking to a minimum, especially in residential districts and with some nice aesthetic area like this is. So maybe when you come back, and we'd ask that you come back for one more meeting so we could do a site plan review, and then talk about exactly where these parking spots are. But I don't think the number of spots is offensive at 12. If you can get it down, that'd be great. And especially if by getting it down, you move the parking out of the front yard setback. So there's no parking right up against the street at all, either existing or proposed parking. And then just show us where that road will go, and to the greatest extent possible, I guess, any of the setback to the east of that access point, anything east of that, if that could be grass or sidewalk, that would be much appreciated. And I think it would be well received by the board. Although, really, the space in front of the building, if that could be restored to grass, that'd be great.
Okay, that's not a problem.
So I think those are some of the landscaping concerns. Anyone else have landscaping concerns about
Well, sort of. I know that other gas stations that have been converted, such as the one where Plenty Park is now, they ran into a lot of contamination difficulty. Is that something that
We
you-
do not have an
you're
issue
concerned
with that,
about?
sir.
That's already been done, and when the tanks come out, state was there testing the soil.
There's
Good.
no issues.
And so there's any signage? Where do you anticipate the signage will be?
On the actual building or in front of it,
It's actually on the
Do you have
line.
do you think of,
Yeah.
was that the triangle?
well, the triangle was the original proposal, but
Yeah, they're probably going to be on the lawn, like, because the greenery is something that's now popped up, so it's probably going to end up on the lawn like the neighbor has
Yeah.
across the way.
And I think,
He has a nice one setting up with a little flower garden that sits on the lawn there, and it's very nice. McGinn, similar to that. It'll be under 32 square feet and be on that lawn and greenery area.
I think it's going to be considerably less than 32 square feet in that district.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a multiple residential zoning district, so, Brian, do you know off the top of your head what the?
I think it's 12.
Yeah, it might be, so considerably smaller
Yep.
than 36.
Is there, in the rear corner,
Because there used to be some really big signs there.
Yeah, we're moving in the right direction.
in the rear corner, there's quite a bit of debris. Were you gonna, planning on cleaning all that probably from
With Shumac and overhead doors and stuff.
all kinds of stuff back there?
Yeah.
Is that all gonna be
Gone.
cleaned up?
Cleaned all up, yeah.
Any other members of the board have questions? What I'll ask is that we warn it for a site plan. If you can come back with a little more detail. This is fine, but with some of the.
Well, one of the
that
things
you
that's
mentioned.
happened here is because we're probably giving up some curb cut, it changes the whole parking scenario. And so, not knowing what we're going to be asked on, we just put this on paper so that we had something to start the
And that-
program.
Great, we appreciate that. It's
Yeah.
been very helpful for our conversation tonight. And then just to show us where where you propose the parking spaces and add a handicap parking spot. If you can show us where the sign will go,
Okay.
that would be great. As long as it's a conforming sign, the size of the sign, then you can just go to the zoning administrator and get permitted for the sign size. We'd like to know where it is, especially in relation to the curb cut. Show us where the grassed area will be, and is there any other? And if you have any proposed changes to the structure itself, I know that you still have the large bay door there.
It does, that's coming out, and there's going to be windows, and there's going to be a front door there. The front door that's to the west a little bit is coming out. And then on the very western end of the building, there's going to be a door put in there.
Okay.
And the bathroom is going to be moved back to the back of the building.
So an elevation?
Elevation, the
east
top-
and west
the-
elevation? No, if you could bring us
Yeah,
an
okay.
elevation east?
Yeah.
No, a north-facing and I guess east-facing elevation. That'd be great.
Yep.
And any other parking, any other landscaping changes that you propose, let us know about. And I think that's it.
Remember too, sometimes, when you're looking at your parking again, sometimes angling the space a little bit provides a lot more maneuvering room.
So before we get to the public, any other members of the board have questions? I think we're really, other than the conversation about the site plan elements, the only decision we'll be making tonight is a hair salon a lower intensity non-conforming use than a gasoline station / repair facility or repair garage or whatever the term is. Any other members of the public have questions or comments regarding this application? Hello.
I'm Martha Fenn, and I live at 192 Western Avenue, and I've been to all the hearings for 50 years, and I wish Mr. Hudon had, as usual, put a map up, because you are talking about two lots. The Tyler lot, on which the gas station and the beauty parlor would be, is a pre-existing non-conforming use. The Gibson lot, which is the dirt to the left of the station, Mr. Udon has been trying to pave for maybe 40 years, and the Vermont Supreme Court ruled that is zoned residential. Brian, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
The Gibson lot is zoned residential. It cannot be used for any commercial use such as parking, and it cannot be paved. Although I see the entrance, the curb cut has a little pavement on it now. And I have all the records of all the meetings and the Vermont Supreme Court decision. And I also read that Mr. Udon promised that he would never again try to appear and have asked to have that residential area paved. And that, unless there's been a zoning hearing I didn't know about. It is zoned residential.
It is zoned residential, but you are allowed to have parking for non-residential
I
uses.
can't hear.
You are allowed to build parking in residential districts.
I think what Brian is saying, what the zoning administrator is saying, is that it is residential, but you can have parking in a residential lot.
Well, is he planning to rent? Are you planning to rent spaces for people who don't have garages and don't have any place to park?
The testimony from the applicant so far is that it's intended to be for its use, the use of the adjoining property.
That is correct.
You can park there, but you can't pave it.
I don't think that's the position of the Brattleboro Development Review Board.
Well, it's been the position for 35, 40 years, and
Yeah.
the Vermont Supreme Court ruled
And I think,
that we
and I'm
were right.
familiar with those decisions, and I think a lot of those decisions related back to the expansion of a non-conforming use. And
No,
that's-
it didn't. That was
Okay.
just when Chuck Cummings wanted to build 3 bays. That was a...
Right, and I think we're just going to have to agree to disagree on this, but
No.
this is a reduction in the severity of a non-conforming use on adjacent parcels, and that parking is permitted in a residential district, because I have parking in my residential lot, and
Right,
I'm hoping I can park.
but that's just commercial parking.
Yeah, but again, this is a single use of a lot. I mean, there may be 2 lots, but it's a common use between 2 lots. And this is a pre-existing. I'm sorry. This is a pre-existing non-conforming use, and when you have a pre-existing non-conforming use like we do,
There are 2 lots there.
then we're shrinking the non-conformity.
Brian, help me.
I'm just the clerk.
Didn't he just say that they were going to put grass in?
Yes,
Yeah,
we
I think
did.
substantially that is. I think it looks as if some of that currently is a curb cut.
Right.
So some of that lot is already being
Right.
used for a non-residential, non-permitted, non-conforming, bad use. And we're just making it into a less bad use.
Right.
Even if it's residential, because there is a curb cut for that and the pavement extends onto that property, then we're just making the non-conforming use less severe.
And that's one of
And
the
we're
curb
not
cuts that we would
actually
get rid of.
voting on whether that's going to be paved tonight.
No. The only thing we're voting on tonight is a
Not yet.
is a hair salon, a less intense non-conforming use than a gas station / repair facility. Any other members of the public have questions or comments regarding this application? Yes.
Warren person. I live at 200 Western Avenue. I guess I have a couple of questions about this. I understand there are 2 employees, but there are 4 or 5 chairs. And where I get my hair cut, there are 3 chairs and 2 employees. It seems to work really well. I'm not sure how that would work. Why would you need so many parking spaces, I guess, is what it would come down to.
Okay.
Let's see. A lot of these things we've written. Well, signage is something that gets addressed later.
Yep. It'll be addressed at site plan review, and if not a site plan review, it'll be administratively approved by the zoning administrator.
And to what extent can you enlarge, alter, reconstruct, restore a building that's a non-conforming use?
You cannot, but again, we've determined that this is not a non-conforming building, this is a non-conforming use, and there are 2 separate issues. But if you have a building that houses a non-conforming use, you can modify the building as long as it doesn't intensify the use.
But it's been ruled that you can't expand the building footprint.
No, not by this board,
Well, by the Supreme Court.
and not in this matter. That's another tricky issue, and I really don't want to get into a debate here. But what's passed is passed. The Supreme Court decision doesn't speak about what's happening today. It spoke about what happened in the past.
Okay. So let's see. I guess I don't really have. Well, what about hours of operation? I mean, are there other issues of intensity of use that we should be looking at?
Sure, that's a very good question.
Yep.
Lighting, I guess, would be another.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's typically addressed at site plan.
I realize
that's
that.
a good point. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Applicant, I'm sorry, a member of the public has some very good questions about parking spaces, and we talked about the desire of the board to reduce the number if you can. So do you think that you would have the ability to reduce beyond 12 to a fewer number? And again, especially if they are moved back out of the front yard setback.
Well, there's going to be, you didn't understand why they needed to be 4 or 5 booths. Is somebody's getting their hair dried where somebody else is getting theirs cut, and so the girls do more than one thing. And attentively they work on more than one customer at a time. It's not like a man goes in and gets a haircut. That's all he does is get a haircut. But when you're doing women's hair, it's different. They get it dyed, they get it cut, they get it dried. So while that's happening, they can wait on another customer, and that's why there has to be a 4 or 5 booths to make all that happen. So I guess that's, and the hours of operation, I think we listed already 8 to 8.
And that's just, normally most salons are closed, say on a Monday, and just open Tuesdays through Saturday? Is that what you're saying?
It's 6 days a week on the paperwork.
It's 6 days a week.
Yeah.
So hour of operation, signage, parking spaces. I think we've addressed some of those, and some of those we'll talk again when you come back for the site plan approval. Any other members of the public have questions or comments regarding this application? Okay, so again, just want to make sure everyone understands this is a very narrow decision tonight, and then a request for an additional submission in the future. But tonight's decision is whether we can provide approval to convert a non-conforming use to a non-conforming use of lesser intensity, and we will kick the can down the road on the site plan elements until you can provide additional information that we discussed tonight. So looking for a motion to approve.
So motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. I abstain. That carries 601. Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll take a 5-minute recess. I'll reconvene the March 19, 2012 Brattleboro Development Review Board meeting. And I will call application 2012-014, John Loggia, request for plat approval to adjust the boundary line.
My name's Eric Morse. I'm here with John Loggia, and Peter Cooper is here also. And it's to request a boundary line adjustment between the two parcels.
Okay. Where are we at? So we're Bonnievale Road.
Bonnievale Road, it's just south of where the pavement ends, on the east side of the road.
Okay. And then, so if we're going a little further up the hill, we're going up the hill at that point, right, on Bonnievale?
When you're heading, it's going south, the road rises.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
that's right. Okay, I'm sorry. And then, so the boundary, the existing boundary is a little
It's kind of a zigzag
zigzag.
line between the
And then
parcels.
the new boundary is a little different, but roughly in the same area.
Roughly in the same area. It's to reflect how the land has been used, yard work, a woodshed. There were no pins in that area. So rather than adjust the land to some arbitrary boundary, we're changing the boundary to match the use of the land.
So not changing any access to Bonnievale Road. Those will
Correct.
stay the same.
Frontage is the same.
Frontage is almost the same, yeah.
Yep. Acreage is well above the required acreage.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Any other members of the board have questions
Will
regarding
they
this
have
application?
to change the deed or anything like that?
Yep, they'll have to do a deed swap. There's always a condition of our approval within a certain number of days, maybe 90 days, that you'll have conforming deeds to show the transfer of the property. Any other members of the board have questions regarding this application? Any members of the public have questions regarding this application? Hearing none. All those looking for a motion to approve the subdivision request for plat approval to adjust the boundary line on 684 and 736 Bonnievale Road.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. I abstain. That carries 601.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Call application. Oh, I will call it.
Okay. So, I'm James Valenti. I guess I'm kind of like the Speaker of the House. After the President's gone and the Vice President's gone, they go to me. And I'm chairing my first meeting tonight, so I'm sure that Brian and perhaps Jim will guide me a bit. Are there any members of the public who might comment on this who were not sworn in initially, who came after the beginning of the meeting?
My colleague right with me here.
Oh, okay. Can you stand? I assume you might speak during this, so I'll just give you the oath. Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give in the cause under consideration is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Under the pains and penalties of perjury? Excuse me.
I do.
Thank you. Okay, so this is application 2012-015, Vermont Center for the Deaf. Request for a site plan and local Act 250 approval to install the antenna on an 8-foot pole mounted on a 22-foot open latticework truss.
Yes.
You want to take it away, Jim?
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, the applicant is Vermont Earthworks Incorporated. This is the nonprofit entity that owns proudly a low-power FM broadcast license from the Federal Communications Commission. And the station, its DBA, is WVEW-LP-FM 107.7. And we are struggling and working hard to get back on the air within 1 year of the terrible fire last April at Brooks House. And this is one of the key components of that, which is a relocation of our antenna, which had been on the Brooks House. You may recall having seen it there prominently overlooking Main Street. We had an opportunity here to relocate it with an eye toward better broadcast reach and less interference. That's our hope anyway. And with the great good offices of the Vermont Center for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, we found a location on top of Vermont Hall, which is one of the low buildings as you go up Austin Drive. I think you have better photos than I do, but on Vermont Hall there is about a 2-foot elevator shaft platform, and on that platform we are locating a tower with an antenna. We call it an antenna, but actually the antenna component of it is very small. The lattice work, which you see in the drawing from SVE Associates, the lattice work tower is itself about 20 some odd feet tall, and then there is an 8-foot pole, and on the 8-foot pole on top of that 20-foot tower, the antenna, the actual FM antenna, is located 3 feet from the top. There are specific technical reasons for that. Don't ask me to go into too much detail about it, but it has to do with the fact that broadcast antennas for any facility such as radio, TV, or anything do have radiation. And the location of the antenna and where it does actually broadcast a signal needs to be a certain elevation above the normal 6-foot height of a human being. So that's why then one of the questions that had been asked supplementarily of our application was why 30 feet, and that's why I think I included with the supplemental materials a letter from our engineer, Ira Wilner, indicating that the total 30 feet is what is required so that the minimum level of RF field strength is not beyond what the FCC allows at human height level. So that's that, and it's on top of the elevator shaft, and then inside the building we have basically a little walk-in closet there. It's going to be about 4 square feet, and in that closet there will be receiving equipment, because our studio is going to be in the old Maxwell Lawyer office in the Hooker Dunham building, by golly, right on the second floor up from the street, right where I used to have my office. I still will have my office now. And we will send our signal via Ethernet, I think Ethernet or somehow from that studio to the Austin School, piece of equipment in that walk-in closet where it will then travel up the antenna and hopefully to the ears of all of our loyal listeners. We did include with the application SVE Associates letter explaining how they're going to put it up, what's going to be used to put it up. We answered some other questions with regard to its impact on local services and so forth. And then, again, supplementarily, I included, and I think each of you does have in your packet, answers to questions that were posed by the board when you got the initial application. And those in particular had to do with a coverage area map, which is slightly different now than it was. Not much, in terms of the micro level. Macroly, it's only moved from Main Street to Austin Drive, and that slightly changes the perimeter, as you see there. You'd have to see the old one to see if it's any different, basically. It's 100 watts. It does a little more than open a garage door, and it's terrific. That's what we love. And we have also in our supplement here our FCC construction permit. Those aren't easy to get. And a license agreement with the Austin School, and they're good gracious in allowing us to take a license to have the antenna there, and in return for that we will be giving them an underwriting spot in perpetuity.
Jim, what is I assume that the lattice work is just metal like you see on most antennas. Everything's pretty normal,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Metal lattice work with a metal antenna on top.
Yes.
Guide wires. Okay.
Yes.
What color is it going to be, do you know?
That's a very good question. I can only assume it would be either the color that the metal comes in or that comes, whatever it comes in. We had no intention of painting it.
I'm going to put one of those fake trees on top.
No, no, we will not do that.
It'll be metallic red.
There will not be a blinking WBEW, WBEW. That would be another couple of site plan visits, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. It doesn't really matter, but I noticed, Brian, that you said it's 35 feet. It looks to me like it's 31.6 feet. Is that, am I missing something?
No.
Okay.
It was just incorrect.
Oh, okay, okay. And what's the maximum height in that district?
The maximum height is 35 feet in general in town.
Okay.
There's no specific dimensional requirement in that IPUTA.
So is its height actually under the height limit?
It's on a 20-foot high building, so...
Oh, that's what I'm forgetting. Okay, so we're at 51.6. And Jim, you said that anything less than that, and you're below the standard required by certain health regulations, right?
Yes, and unfortunately, I don't know all of the technical reason what the technicals mean, but Mr. Wilner's letter there explains that without going to, if we used a lower mast, we would run the risk of having an RF exposure level exceeding what the FCC allows. Now, again, it's not as if humans are going to be walking up on the roof and being there but that's not the point. They say you take 6 feet. Above that, how high does it have to be in order to reduce the level of exposure? So the antenna then has to be up at that place.
Any thoughts from my brothers and sisters here?
I just find it sort of ironic that something that's designed strictly for the hearing is going to be placed where they don't have that.
Well,
My question is there going to be a fence or something put around the base of that so that you've got a school with kids at it and they see a tower? Is it going to be a challenge to start climbing that?
It sounds to me like a good question. I hadn't thought of that. We would. One of our problems here, not to dodge that, because it's a good point. I'm not sure what sort of an attractive nuisance this might be, to kids, or how easy it is to get on that roof anyway.
It's not that hard because I was there this afternoon.
Okay, yeah. We have to be on the air by midnight, by the end of the day on April 15th of 2012, or we lose our license. And if we were to, if the board felt it was appropriate to add some sort of a barrier, around there, I would only ask that we be allowed to move ahead to get this thing up and get ourselves on the air, and that not be a precondition, because I'm not sure at this point how we would design it, pay for it, or build it. You're talking about a fence or
a barrier to prevent the kids, reasonably prevent the kids from climbing it. I mean, some of those kids are pretty ingenious. They'll figure out a way anyways, but
Right.
to make a reasonable attempt at preventing it to be a jungle gym.
When I was out on the West Coast in Seattle, I worked for VoiceStream and as part of the towers that they used to build for the cell phones. And some of them were put on a roof. And they were able to work with the people who built the tower to actually put up some kind of a barrier around it. And it wouldn't be that difficult. You could have that happen with the person who's building it.
I guess my feeling, Steve, Austin, as you know, has been there for 108 years or something, and been working with these kids for that long. And they would be concerned if they saw any risk. They would have probably spoken up and asked for something. There is no access to it. A kid would have to find a ladder, etc. They're pretty well monitored. I have worked at the school. I don't suspect that the school has a very large interest in not allowing any student to get hurt under any conditions.
Right.
I have a hunch if they were concerned about that, we would have heard about it.
I forgot to, and I should introduce my colleague Lauren Reedy, who is the acting president of the board of Vermont Earthworks. Just so you know, Lauren, who this person is sitting here next to me.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
Okay. Anything else from the board? Public? Nobody's here to talk about it? Okay, well, does the board have any thoughts on exceeding the district height limit? Is that a problem for you guys?
I'm fine. The only place that would be visible from, as far as I know, is I-91. And from I-91, it actually probably wouldn't even rise high enough to see against the sky, because the next building, the main hall behind it, goes up yet another 60 feet or more. So
Rather large hill behind that.
yeah,
So.
it's essentially invisible from.
Okay, well, I think that's the primary issue. Brian, am I missing anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I should mention that we did get a temporary permit prior to tonight's, but our engineer hasn't scheduled yet, so we did not commence any of the work.
Okay. Well, hearing that, do we have a motion?
I so moved.
Well,
What-
do we have
sorry.
I should say, do we have a motion to approve, on behalf of Vermont Earthworks, a site plan and local Act 250 approval to install an antenna on an 8-foot tall pole mounted on a 22-foot open latticework truss on the roof of Vermont Hall at the Austin School?
Okay.
Oh yeah, with a dimensional waiver. Thank you, Brian. I almost got through that without making mistakes. See that? Okay.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I'll abstain. The motion passes 6-0-1.
I would recommend, however, that you keep in mind perhaps a deterrent to keep
I have actually made a note of that,
Yeah.
and it's a very good point.
cattle fence.
We'll look into that. And, yeah. But we very much appreciate your consideration, and look for us and listen for us. We'll be on the air soon. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Great, I'll call application 2012-016, St. Michael Church. Request for set comment.
People driving past sometimes hear it, and filling is with antique.
We're at least 3 months away.
I will make a disclosure to the applicant and us, parties, members of the public. I did send my children to the Brattleboro Nursery School for 6 consecutive years, so I'm familiar with the facility. It makes me tear up just a bit that it looks like the swing set, that kamikaze swing set that they have in the back there looks like that is leaving.
It'll be relocated.
Relocated, yes. So whole other generation of Brattleboro children will be impaled by that swing. That's good. But none of my children currently go to Brattleboro Elementary School.
After 6 years, I hope.
I know. One of my children. The others went right through, but one of them stayed. Please, tell us about your project.
Well, just a little bit about the building. As some of you are aware, this building used to reside on Main Street. And in 1953, it was moved up to its present location. The building was constructed in 1855, I believe. So it's a historic building in Brattleboro.
Where was it on Main Street?
It was where the addition of Center Congregational Church is located. It was on that lot. Okay, basically, there's been no construction in the church for approximately 50 years. In the 60s, there was an addition called the Bradley Wing that goes off to the north. But since that time, there has been none. And one of our main concerns over the years has been the accessibility of the building for people that are physically challenged. And the whole project is built around solving that problem by the installation of new entrances that will be accessible to folks with wheelchairs or other mobile accessories. At both entrances, both the front entrance and the lower entrance in the rear, be a new elevator and bathrooms on both levels that will be handicapped accessible. We've got a renovation for a better meeting space on the second level on the north end of the building by moving some partitions in the interior part of the building without changing the footprint. A new heating system will be installed. The one that's there is 60 years old and certainly at this point is very inefficient and needs replacement. We have proposed a sewer connection to the town sewer. We have a septic system that's 60 years old and holding our breath that that's going to continue to be used until we can replace it with a permanent system that would go to the town system. There are improvements proposed for the parking lot and drainage in the parking lot. There's also improved drainage around the building. We frequently get inundated with water that seeps through the superstructure of the building and causes problems with the interior. The plans that have been prepared will meet all fire and building codes. That's been checked by the architect. We're improving a small section of the sanctuary to reduce the size of the chancel and provide some additional seating in the church. And on the south side of the building, where the addition is located, once the elevator was designed, it was discovered that if we drew a straight line, almost a straight line from the addition that was required for the elevator, that it would provide us with new space for a small chapel. and that is also in the plans. So what we're really looking at are some renovations, plus the additional space of approximately 871 square feet that's located on 2 different levels for the building. So and I guess with that, we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you. That was very helpful. I just have a few. Looks like the parking area will be expanded, and it might move a little closer to Putney Road. That's a pretty steep bank there, so kind of on the north middle portion of the lot. Will there be any retaining wall there, or do you just anticipate that that'll be a grassy
Before
slope?
we continue, I think perhaps Ron and Alan should be sworn because they were not here when I was sworn in.
Note that the vice chair of the Development Review Board failed to remind me yet again. He reminded me earlier, not such that I would remember. And now I have misplaced my attestation, but I will find it.
James had it.
I have it memorized pretty
Yeah?
good.
Yeah, he only forgot a small part of
By all
it.
means.
Do you swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give? Oh yeah, raise your right hand right after I say I know, right? Do you swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give in the cause under consideration to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do. I think that was spot on. Thank you. So yes, the bank, and is there any retaining wall, or is that just going to be a natural slope?
Yeah, I can address that. So the contours that are finished contours that are drawn on here are at a 3-to-1 slope, and it looks a little more extreme in some places, but it's actually a 3-to-1 slope, and that's a fairly stable slope that doesn't need the retaining wall or yeah, so that'll work out.
Kids will be able to still slide down that slope, I imagine?
Yeah, 3-to-1 slope's not too bad. Yeah, won't get hurt. And,
not displacing the Brattleboro Nursery School, are you?
No. So the playground it will still be there, just the fence will be angled off. It's smaller, but it's still there.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, so this parking is expanded, and so there are 3 lights to be, pole-mounted lights to be installed around the parking area. Right now it's fairly dark in that area. And then there's an additional light to be installed over by the Bradley wing to light up that. And I put a cut sheet in the application. I don't know if you have a copy, but it's a downlight, and it sits on a 20-foot pole. And we've talked that the lights would be on timers, so that if there's an evening event, the light will be switched on a timer so that it's light when they go out, but shortly thereafter the lights will go out. And then there are some proposed lights on the new addition, the 2 new additions, and those are fairly small. I think the architect sent up a cut sheet on that. I don't know if you have those, but those are fairly small lamps. Just they'll just light up the immediate area around the entryway. And we understand, I guess there's some unshielded lights, Alan, on the building now.
Currently on the north end of the Bradley
Yeah,
building.
the north, I guess on this north end, and we've had some concerns about that. So those lights will be switched out with a down, a shielded down light.
Right. So I'm treading on ground that's already been covered, but so that you will be hooking up to the municipal sewer system?
Yeah, there's the catch basin, the sewer connection, catch basin right here. And it actually is on the east side of the road, so there'll be very little, pavement disturbance. And so a new wet well will be installed, and it's a force main. It'll have to be pumped up to the municipal system.
And so the existing septic tank in Leachfield is the playground, effectively?
Yes, right, yeah. It sits on a big deposit of sand, that's
Sure.
probably 50 foot deep, so that's why it's worked all these years. So. Yeah. So there's a slight increase in impermeable area, but this area, as you know, it's down in a hole, so there's no runoff from the parking. So we just have infiltration. There's just no way to run any runoff off. So there's the only runoff from the site is from the south side of the building, and but we're actually picking up this drainage and running it down to a dry well in the lower yard area.
Yeah.
And I checked with Gary King, and this drainage that we pick up is going to go to the storm sewer, and he said that would be okay to do that. But he couldn't guarantee that it's always going to flow, but checked it out in a rainstorm, and it seems to be working pretty well.
The existing conditions plan didn't show it, but your grading utility plan shows 2 handicap parking spaces out on Bradley Avenue.
Yeah,
you're going to
those
work with
are-
the town to designate
Those are existing, actually.
Those are there
and they're
now.
striped and paint. They're
There are signs
Signs.
there, and we put cones out for Sunday services for people. There's no painting on the pavement at the present time, but we could do that.
That's a public road. That's the town's road.
Town's road, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So 2 new handicap spots are located right next to the new addition entry, right, the new entry addition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, do you have any others? I did not have any additional questions.
Is there going to be a change on the lighting of your sign out in front, so it's not more downcast on that?
I thought I saw something in here that mentioned that. If it isn't, I would, having suffered from some cataracts myself, I would love to have that not shine in my eyes when I drive down Putney Road.
Oh, there's nothing but the one out here.
I think they're up, yeah. Brian mentioned that, that's been a problem. And
Yeah,
so,
that does need to be readjusted, and we will do that as a part of the project because it's bothersome to everybody.
Yeah.
So you think just maybe keep the existing sign and just downcast
Well,
lighting? Or?
We can put a shield on the lighting, I think, that will cast it to the sign rather than out into the sky, which it does at the present time.
Okay. All right. Any other members of the board have questions regarding this application? Any members of the public have questions or comments regarding this application? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Robin Stern, and I'm representing, I'm the attorney of Brattleboro. I'm representing Wendy Slater, who lives in the butter. Well, actually, I'll be running right up there. But Ms. Slater, the only concern that Ms. Slater has on the regarding the project is the lighting, and that's already been discussed. But I wanted to get a clear idea. It was a little bit more difficult downloading everything to see exactly how the lighting might affect her property, and if I could just point to where her property is, and I'm really just looking for Ron or Alan to let me know.
Robin, can you turn it a little bit so we can see it as well?
Yes, you can. Be careful if thing falls apart.
I know, that's what that's exactly what I'm anticipating.
No, it does, all by itself.
All right.
That's fine.
There you
Thank
go,
you.
okay.
Okay, good.
And your client lives?
She's at 98 Harris Avenue, and so she is right in here, right in here. And she's pleased that there are going to be lights going on because that is going in there because that's also a security issue. But what she wants to make sure is that no light is going to be shining directly into her home, which is right there. So that's really what I'm here for, is just to make sure. Brattleboro has a very sophisticated lighting ordinance. You know, it's intended that any lights be downtown towards what we covered. I had one specific question, because when I was going through the regs somewhere, I thought I came across that the light poles are supposed to be not greater than 20 feet. I don't know if I'm making that up, Brian. Did I just see that somewhere, or?
I think you're correct.
20, but does that not include the mounting? Or is that supposed to be, because these are 23 feet. And again, I don't have, her only issue is she going to be disturbed by the light?
Right.
But I thought I'd mention that because the mounting is 3 feet and the pole is 20 feet by plan. Somewhere I thought I saw 20, and I just didn't know if the mounting was included.
Yeah, I actually revised the plan, and so there's a 2-foot,
Cement mount.
Yeah, 2-foot mount. So but that'd still make it 22.
So can you just kind of remind us what the lighting is, especially that would affect 98?
The pole-mounted lights are
here,
here, and here.
And that would be
and
the
then,
one.
yeah, probably. And then there's also one in the existing parking just to the east of the Bradley wing.
What about on the building? Is there anything on the addition that would shine over that way?
This is a pretty small light. It's right on the addition. And then I think the one that bothers her is the one on this gable end of the Bradley wing.
And
so that's one that will be replaced with a downcast light. You can actually take this. This gives you the light pattern of the. They're shielded lights, and it shows the pattern on the ground. So.
And if she wants to look at the lamps themselves, why they're
Right,
on
actually,
there.
I think those might have been
Oh,
on
okay.
there as well.
Okay.
It was,
Yeah.
is this an extra copy? I'll take that, that's great. So, and all of this conforms with what Brattleboro requires. And are you familiar with Wendy's house where she is on there?
I'm trying to think. Yeah,
Because she,
That's the one we sold up on the
yellow house. Oh, the yellow house. Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah.
so I'm just
actually,
looking
yeah,
to you
it's,
to say, these lights are not going to be shining.
So, Courtney, isn't that over in no, it's.
Oh, excuse me.
She's up here, right?
Oh, it is up there, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it is
okay.
on the other side, I'm
There's
sorry.
the circle.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
So that
Yep.
she's
Yeah.
right in this corner.
Right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, so she would be most impacted.
She's over here.
The building and the.
She also felt the one near the
Probably,
snow
right?
storage.
Probably, yeah.
Currently, there's 2 double flood lamps, one on each corner of the Bradley wing, and I don't see any reason why the one on the Putney Road side couldn't be eliminated once we have these lighting around here. So really, it's just doing something with this corner to illuminate this area, and there'll be a new light on the entrance here. So there'll be 2 less lights, and then the ones that will remain will be shielded. So hopefully, the pool will be directed right into the parking lot.
Well, that's that's the response to it. Until they're up, we don't know.
Yeah, right.
But you're telling me it's not going to shine right into her house, so.
If it does, we'll fix it.
Okay, got that on the record. Thank you, that's all I
Wonderful.
got.
Any other members of the board have questions or comments regarding this application? Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve application 2012-016. Moved.
Second?
And seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. I abstain, that carries 601. Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
We have a meeting with the planning commission coming up sometime soon. I don't know when. When is that? April, sometime in April?
Well, I mean, it's going to be part of the planning board, and I can't represent our board, so.
April 10th?
April 10th? Is that what it is?
That's a Tuesday.
I'll find and recirculate the invitation, but if the members of the board have an opportunity to look at the land use section of the town plan, is that what we're working on?
Yes.
That would be great if we could bring those comments or provide the comments before the meeting to the planning commission, I think that they would.
Yeah, I'll be submitting mine via email because I'll be on camera, so I
Sure.
won't be able to.
Circulate it to everybody. And unless anyone other has any business to come before the board, yes.
Yeah.
One very quick question. What do you think I ought to do with that meeting?
Yeah.
Just embrace your schizophrenia.
What's it, the land?
You can be both.
I
Give
have
us the wisdom of
Yeah, right.
Doc has a
you can be an interpreter. That's what you can do. You can take the language of the development review board, convert it into the language of planning commission speak.
It's all right.
Now, is this going to have?
Adjourn the, sorry, go ahead.
Is this going to have to do? Are we going to be working on
I think it's
PUD?
I think they rightly have constrained our comments to the land use section of the town plan.
Yes.
So I will adjourn the March 19th.
I have one
2012
question.
meeting.
It looks like there's a kind of an interesting course being offered by,
Oh, yeah.
what is
The
it?
Vermont League of Cities and Towns.
I think so, yeah. And I was just wondering if anyone is going to go. And
Is there grant money for
I
that?
might like to hitch a ride with somebody
Yeah, I
if
told
they're.
Brian I was interested in going, but yeah.
In the past, we've been able to find some corresponding grant money to pay for the course. So
Oh, really?
the town has been able to do that. I know the times are tight, money's tight, but if we have some grant money, that'd be great. I've always found the Vermont League of Cities and Towns training to
I don't
be
want to drive though.
very valuable, highly
Yeah.
informative.
What's the subject, John?
I have to look at the-
It's very much in the DRB's area.
Yep.
I don't remember exactly what it is now, but it's primarily concerned with zoning.
Yeah, I think it was.
I think I saw the email. I think one of them is like how to look for issues as a DRB member, or something really focused.
That wasn't like the one I attended last year. I attended one last year that we had up north.
Are we adjourned?
We are adjourned.